Hi, Karl. Thanks
Hi.
for being here. Do you want to start by introducing yourself?
Yes, I am Karl Durland. I am a violinist and a pianist and piano teacher and a piano tuner in the area here.
And you also build and rebuild?
I do a little bit of that, yes. I
Okay.
do. Not much, but a little bit.
Okay, so I'm hoping that you can tell us a little bit about your creative biography, how you, like a maybe condensed version of like when you started playing music and then how you continued.
Yeah. Well, I started in the Suzuki program in Lubbock, Texas, under Barbara Barber, and
Famous teacher.
oh yes, very famous teacher. And I started when I was 5, and I kept it going for many years actually. And I started piano when I was 11, and um, when I was in college, I was actually a music composition major, and so I was in all these ensembles and won all these concerto contests and such when I was younger. And when I would hire the piano tuners to come over, I would listen to them and I was thinking, I could do that. And this was back in 1992 was when I started tuning my first piano. And it was an adventure. I remember I took a whole piano apart when my parents were on vacation and I was watching their home, and they came back and I didn't have it put together again. And
Kids,
my
do
mom
not
would
try
not.
this at home.
No, do not try this at home. My mom wouldn't talk to me for a couple of days until after I put it together. But I was watching another tuner who was tuning a friend of mine's neighbor, their piano, and so I was watching them and I was going home and doing what I could, but I had no idea what I was getting into. So that was the start of the whole adventure back in 1993.
Karl, you've told me lots of stories over the years, and that is not one I've ever heard.
Oh, really? My mom tells that one all the time.
That she'll never forget it.
Oh, yeah. She sees a different thing than I do. I thought it was pretty interesting. She did not.
That's hilarious. So, so you're a violinist and a pianist. So for violin, we tune with 4 pegs or maybe 1 to 4 fine tuners. How is that different from tuning a piano?
Well, the piano, you have 88 keys or 88 notes. And you also have, on many of the notes, you have 2 strings and up to 3 strings. And so there are about 234 strings on an average piano.
230.
Yeah.
That's as many strings as I tune in a week. Probably.
Yeah.
It might take me a whole week to tune a piano. How long does it take you to tune a piano?
When I first started, it took me between 4 and 6 hours. And over the years, you get better because you start to have a method on how to do it, because you tune in a rhythm as you're finding what will work best for you and approaching the tuning, because a piano has a lot of tension in it. Each string is about 150 pounds of pressure. So you're looking at 10 to 12 tons of pressure per piano. That's just a little upright piano. And they're on the grands are up to 20 tons. Like the big 9-foot grands, it's easy 20 tons. And it takes a lot of patience, and you have to approach it right, because once you start tuning, the whole piano starts to flex, and you have to work with that flex so that it stays in tune longer and it doesn't twist itself too much this way or too much that way. Because if you tune one side, it's going to give on the other side.
I think I understand what you mean, because sometimes sometimes my E string will become really unwound on my violin. And then I tune up the E string, and then I notice, wait, my other strings are out of tune. So is that kind of the same principle you're talking about?
It is. It's very much the same principle, right? And also the violin does flex too, because when you tighten the strings, it actually brings everything up so that your top of the violin goes up.
Wild.
Which is pretty neat.
Very wild. So I'm hoping maybe you can explain to us how a piano actually works, because it seems to have a little more mechanical stuff going on than a violin. So I see you have this cool kind of gadget here. I'm going to see if I can come up a little closer. And if you could show us.
Yeah, this is called the Action. This is what the insides of a grand piano would be. This is, if you had a grand piano, your fall board would be here. That's the part that has a name on it. And then your strings would be here. And then you'd have the body of the piano this way. So this was the innards of the piano here. So this is the key right here. And then as you go back, this part here is called the whippin', and then you have your hammer, and then you have your damper. right here.
So the hammer is hitting the string, which is kind of where this metal bar is. Can you do it again?
As it goes up.
So bing.
Yep.
And the damper's off, so it lets the string resonate.
That's
or
right.
Ring,
yeah.
vibrate. Okay.
It's just like if you had like a little mallet and you went bing right on the string.
So slow motion one time, we're hitting that, it's letting it ring, and then when you release it, the damper comes on and stops it.
Yeah, that's because of this really important little piece of wood there. I don't know if you can see it. This is called the jack.
Let's check it out.
Right here.
Okay.
That's the jack.
Whoa.
And
what does that do?
Right there, if you see it as it goes up, see it pushes up the knuckle, and then it releases it right exactly when it strikes a string.
That's so cool.
And so it lets it relax afterwards. And that's the thing that is so important with the feel of the piano when you're playing. So when this is off, like if the adjustments are off, it feels very sloppy on your fingers.
So is that like when I play a piano and the keys feel kind of clackety? So that's a loose action.
Yeah, that's when the adjustments for your jack is usually too far forward and it slips too soon, so you don't get the strike right, and then this bounces. And that's what you're feeling in your fingers back here.
Okay, and then also I've had some pianos where, like, I can remember when I was a little kid and I'd be playing on my nice light action piano at home, then I'd get to the concert and all of a sudden I'd be playing on a big heavy piano and it just felt like my fingers were trying to push through fudge.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So what is that about?
That is about the length of the key. Like the upright pianos, like the little spinets and the consoles, the keys are only to about here. So they're about 6 to 8 inches less than the key that's on a grand piano because the strings are vertical. Cool. And so you don't need as long key. And then your action is actually this way. So your hammer, how it goes up and hits this way, your hammer would actually hit this way on because the strings are vertical. Got
it. And so, right, if your strings are horizontal like this method and they're further away, that would be just everything is heavier.
Yeah, everything's heavier. But the good thing about the grands is that you can do really light touches with them. Which is a little harder to do on some uprights, like the little spinet pianos are really tough to do that on because what they have is what's called a drop action. And their hammers are literally right in back of the key, but the action itself is below the key line. And so it has this thing, it's called a sticker that pulls up the whole action. And so it feels much lighter, but you'll usually just get one dynamic.
Whoa, crazy.
Yeah, either medium or loud, and that's about it because they're so light.
That's so interesting. So you have a couple different kinds of pianos here. So let's go meet the pianos.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Is this good?
That's good. So, Karl, I've been teaching my kids that there's piano, and then there's forte, and that the instrument I actually play in class, to back them up, it was originally called the pianoforte. And I might be stretching the truth a little bit. Can you tell us what a pianoforte actually is, and who is this beautiful piano?
Well, this piano here is a 1799 Astor from England, which Astor was a very well-known piano. It was Astor and Broadwood were the two main English makers back then.
There's a cool clock here.
Yeah, that's a...
Karl has a very cool historic house that has historically been filled with music, and that's just one of the cool things here.
That's funny. Yeah. So yeah, this is 1799 pianoforte, and it gets its name because they originally had the design came from clavichords and harpsichords, which harpsichords pluck the strings. They have what's called a plectrum, and the clavichords, they have a little itty bitty hammer and they hit the strings, but you don't get the dynamics from those because their system is very different. They're a smaller instrument and they just don't react like what our modern pianos do. So this one, you have the broader range of the dynamics, and that's why you have the piano, which is really soft, and forte. And it was called a pianoforte keyboard instrument. That was the official name.
The pianoforte keyboard
or
instrument.
clavier.
So a clavier, right? Which is German for key,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So this particular instrument was made in 1799 in England,
Mm-hmm.
and somehow made its way over to the U.S. of A.
Yes, it was crated up and came over on a shipping vessel, which is pretty amazing. It came on probably I would guess, a frigate, which were the main transports of goods back then. And so there were all these English frigates with the big masts and sails. And
So this
That's
was kind of, how would this have affected composers at the time that they started coming out?
That's a great question, actually. That's back in Bach's time, the keyboard was mainly, you had organs and you had harpsichords and some clavinets. Some were around, but those were still fairly new instruments. And their keyboards were only about this big. They were really small little keyboard. That's why when you're playing a Bach piece, it doesn't spread out too much beyond 3 octaves of C. It's like really compacted. And over time, like back in 1750, in that area when Haydn and Mozart were around, the keyboard spread to about here, to this C. And then as the composers wanted more musical notes, as organs got bigger, they wanted to do the same with the pianos, or pianofortes. And then it spread out to the C right here.
So they had more range.
Mm-hmm.
More range and more dynamics.
Yes.
And what does this thing actually sound like? Do you mind just giving us a little?
Yeah, it's a very soft sound. Way back when loud things weren't how can you say, loud instruments were not the norm. They
Not
didn't
the
want
norm,
the,
yeah.
people actually did faint, probably because of corsets, from louder instruments. That was like trumpets, like Mozart was famous for not liking trumpets because he would faint because of the sound was too loud for him.
Wow,
And,
me too.
Yeah, I think that's fascinating. That's why he never wrote a trumpet concerto, which is too bad. And you hardly ever see a trumpet in any of his orchestrations.
That's right.
Yeah, you see trombones, but not the trumpets.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Too much.
It is. It's too bad. I think all the trumpet. Oh, just think of what a trumpet concerto from Mozart would have been like. That would have been
It
fantastic.
would have been really hard.
Yeah, that too. He did write one for horn, so
Yeah.
that was neat.
We think of oh, that's right, that beautiful horn concerto.
Mhm. Yeah.
I think of Mozart as like the king of the every kind of instrument has its like composer god that you look up to. For violin, I would definitely say it's Bach, and for organ, whoops, again, it's Bach. And but for the keyboard, we think Mozart.
Yeah, definitely
Right.
Mozart.
Yeah.
And I like throwing Beethoven in there too, and Haydn actually. Haydn.
Sure.
What I loved about Haydn was that he used a lot of Hungarian folk tunes in his symphonies and especially his quartets that he played for the Esterhausen royalty. And I just think he was so clever in doing it. They loved it. They thought it was fantastic, but they didn't know it was from the Hungarian folk tunes that he put in there. I just think that's great. What a neat guy. But yeah, so this little, there's some of the tone of it. So it's like a tune that would be pretty familiar. Would be like the Mozart C major sonata. And actually, this is actually a resonator. You'll hear a difference in the tone now. It's a little louder.
A little tiny bit.
Yeah. So it's like.
Oh, so sweet. So you were talking about instruments coming over on ships.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have one that might have served as the entertainment on a ship. Can we go visit that one?
Definitely.
All right. Moving camera work.
I was going to show you one more thing.
Yeah.
This is actually pretty neat. I don't know if you can get
Let's
a good
look.
shot of this.
Okay, I'll try.
Here, this is the insides of the piano forte here, and you can kind of see how the little hammers go up there. And so you have your dampers here, and that's your little hammer. And then they go through their cycle, just like that.
Oh, they're so teeny
But here is what the hammer looks like right there.
And
They're
it weighs
small
about
little thing.
a quarter of an ounce.
Yeah, they're super duper light. That's where you get that light, twinkly,
Yeah.
really elegant sound.
And the strings are also quite thin and delicate. They're like spider web almost.
Yeah, and the bass strings, you can see here, they're wound. They do have a winding on them.
So,
And-
I don't know, y'all, if I can even really get close enough for you to tell exactly how windy they are. I mean,
Oh, here's a good, you might be able to get a good shot.
it almost, I mean, these are like hand wound.
These are all handmade strings.
Yeah.
You see the...
Handmade metal strings as opposed to the handmade gut strings on violins that I tell the kids all about.
Oh, gosh. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good thing to threaten them with. All right, so let's go on to this really cool thing. When Karl first told me about this instrument, I barely believed him, and now here it is in the flesh. Okay, tell us all about this weird, cool
So
instrument.
this is a neat little instrument. I mainly have it here for decoration because this one is going to need a lot of work in the future.
But it has a cool story.
Oh yeah, definitely. This was specially made by a French company by the name of A Board. And
Let's look and see.
here's the tag for it. And
Okay.
it was for the Hayden Company that used to...
Not the Haydn Company, although it's spelled the same.
It's spelled the same. Yeah, you're right.
But the Hayden Company.
And it says it's specially prepared for the climate of India.
For the climate of India, and this is by the way, y'all. This is hand inlaid. What is it inlaid with? Is it metal? That's crazy.
I think so.
Karachi and Quetta.
Yeah, Quetta.
Quetta.
Yeah.
Even these little cute. Look at that.
These are real ivories. These are the original ivory tops. And this was made for a shipping vessel that used to go to India.
Cool.
And it was made specially for this family.
That's really
Who
cool.
owned the Hayden Company.
So it was actually played and lived on a ship.
And
And these and even this is part of the piano. So I mean, of course, on a ship back in these days. What do we say about what year?
This was made in 1900.
So 1900. Yeah, there's not like electricity on your big shipping vessels. There would have been candles, and these little candle holders would have served to illuminate your score.
Yes, that's right. And also, what's interesting about this piano, it's called a birdcage piano, which unfortunately I have too much stuff up there to open it up for you.
It's okay.
But they called it a birdcage because the inside section that has the hammers is its own rack.
Whoa.
And you can take out that whole rack. And they're really difficult to work with because they're so complex. But they're rare. They stopped making this style right around 1900. This is probably one of the very last ones ever made. But back in the mid 1800s, that was very common to have a birdcage upright piano, especially from England. That they were known for, and they're very beautiful. They're very ornate.
Nice.
And have great wood, and usually have the candle sconces. But like for instance, this one I haven't tuned, but it has just kind of this mellow sound, kind of spooky sound.
Kind of spooky. Oh, I skipped the piano, y'all. In the same room as the pianoforte is also an amazing Bechstein that that Karl brought back to life. But let's go visit. Let's go visit Mr. Steinway B that like got you so into this. I think I remember when you told me you were going to rebuild a piano.
This was my first actual rebuild of the piano. Actually, I'll tell you what. I'll move the music so you can see how beautiful this piano is.
Okay.
Too. This piano was made in 1887 in New York with the Steinway Company. And the Steinway Company started in 1854. So this was one of their first pianos, the first 30 years of the company. And some of the signatures that I have found of the makers, like there are some stamps on the keys, there are some handwritten ones throughout the piano. I found 4 of them. More than likely, those were probably the original people who came from Germany who started the Steinway Company.
Wow.
Because they're all German names, and I just find that really fascinating.
It is fascinating, and I understand that hand making pianos is just, that's something that the Steinway Company still does. Like they take a lot of pride in handcrafting every piece of the piano, and nothing is like factory spec'd out like with a CAD machine or 3D printing or whatever you might imagine. The Steinways that come out today are also handmade, but this bad boy, look how beautiful.
Yeah, the rack is all hand done. The legs, I don't know if you can see the legs. Those are
beautiful legs.
Empire legs. So this kind of gives you a perspective of when this piano was made, is that Grover Cleveland was in his first administration.
Okay, that's a long time ago.
So it has that style of the Industrial Revolution of the late 1800s.
Wow.
But this one actually is an 85 key piano. They didn't make 88 key standard until 1895, I believe it was.
Wow.
It could have been 1892. I'm not certain, but right around the mid 1890s is when the 88 keys became standard. Which I do have another Steinway over there that is an 1892 upright piano, which does have 88 keys.
The house of many pianos. That is an upright Steinway, my friends. Okay, that's cool. Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't you give us a quick demonstration of what this one sounds like?
Okay.
And maybe I can even peek inside a little bit while you're playing.
Yeah.
If you don't mind.
So you can see how the hammers work and
cool. Look at this beautiful music. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it's a beautiful piano.
Why not have beautiful things?
Definitely. All right, so I'll try this piece. This is a Chopin Nocturne here. So.
Excuse me, I was just the person at the concert who had to come.
Oh.
Carl, thank you so much for your time today and for showing us all about how pianos work and showing us your really part of your really cool collection. When we learn more about synthesizers, I'll follow this up with part 2.
Oh, yes.
All right, cool.
There is a nice gem over here.
Ooh, bonus round.
Oh, yeah, this is pretty neat. Tray that I have there. This is an old score, musical score from Giacomo Rossini, and from 1819, which if you look in any of the books from Rossini's time, this was a piece called La Ladra, which was a very famous opera after he did Barbara of Seville. This is the Fleeting Magpie. And there was a festival in Orvieto, Italy in 1819, which he debuted some of his music there. And this is the score that he used for that debut. So he actually used this particular
And this is
score.
probably his hand. He probably used like a quill pen dipped in ink to make, and look how neat. I want everyone to notice how neat and uniform these strokes are and these notes. It's very clear exactly what he meant. Here.
He also didn't use scribes. He would always write out the music himself.
Wow.
And so this is a pretty neat item.
Violini, violins, violas, which probably included, don't you think, some lower stringed instruments? Maybe. We've got flauti, oboe, clarini in C, the clarinet, right? Corni, horns in C, trombe, trombones in C, fagotti, which is bassoon, right? And what does it say? Podesta.
That is one of our soloists. Here she begins to sing. Right here, this is her musical line for her singing.
Podesta is a character, right? Coro would have been the chorus. And who do we have here? More characters.
Yeah, that's the cello.
Oh no,
right
what tamburo? Violoncello. Okay, there we go. Yep.
And then the bass.
And then the bass. So cool.
Oh, and this is Podesta is the other. No, that's the singer there. There's another singer. And this one too, it's a duet. Here it is, right here.
Oh, and you can see his writing of the lyrics. Tranquila.
Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much. What a treasure! Karl Durland, everybody. He's the man. All right. Thank you, Karl.
Thank you.
Okay, Karl, what is this thing?
This is a Virgil practice clavier, which was made in the 1880s. And this particular one came from UVA. It was a professor that had it there. And what it is that it doesn't make any sound.
It's a silent piano.
It's a silent piano, yeah, for practice. So you can use it for playing with a metronome to get the agility in your fingers. But what's really cool about this is that you have the click for your down click, and then you also have an up click.
So meaning that the down click would give you a click when you're depressing for like if you were practicing 16th notes, 1E and a 2E and a and the up click would be, am I holding the key down for long enough?
Yeah, so it's if you go from one to the other, you do the other click to make both match, so you don't hear the bump that happens with the two of them.
So this is something really I never knew existed, but I've always wanted because
they're super rare. They're really
for us
rare.
Night owl pianists, when everyone else in the house is asleep, you can still practice.
Yeah, you can still go through your scales.